Hey friends, tonight we imagine you're standing on a misty hill in the Virginia mountains, tall pine trees swaying gently in the breeze, and the sound of chirping birds mixing with the distant trickle of a stream. You feel the sharp chill of the early morning, the damp earth scent filling your nose, as if you're living in a harsh yet potential-filled world. But be careful. If you can't overcome these challenges, you might not survive this story, especially when your pockets are empty and the future looks bleak. So before you get too comfy, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I'm doing here. By the way, where are you and what time is it there? Share it with me. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft hum as background, and let's begin our journey tonight. You open your eyes, feeling the hard wooden bed beneath your back, a thin blanket barely keeping you warm in the tiny log cabin in Wise County, Virginia. It's 1883. And you were born as Napoleon Hill, a grand name for a life that's anything but poverty surrounds you. Your parents, James and Sarah, are farmers, but Sarah passed away when you were young, leaving you and your father to face loneliness amidst the rolling mountains. You shuffle out to the yard each morning, your tattered shoes scraping against the rocky ground, staring at the barren fields, wondering how to escape this life. Your childhood is filled with hungry days, an empty stomach making you dream of a full meal, your mind buzzing with questions about success, a luxury for a boy like you. You grow up with a stepmother who teaches you to read and write using old, tattered books, and that becomes the first glimmer of light in your life. You hold a makeshift wooden pen, scratching out wobbly letters, dreaming of a different future. But reality is harsh. You work from a young age, chopping wood, tending livestock, your hands callous from labor. A historical truth. In the late 19th century, over 70% of Virginians lived below the poverty line, and you're one of them, fighting to survive through freezing winters. On those days, you sit by the fire, watching the flames dance, telling yourself you won't be defined by your circumstances. But life isn't easy. At 13, your father remarries, and your new stepmother brings both hope and pressure. She pushes you to study, but the family still struggles. A quirky detail. You once said you made a toy gun from wood and rubber bands to protect your family from wild animals, a naive invention that hinted at your early creativity. You smiled to yourself thinking, if I'd hit a bear with that, I'd probably be a legend by now. But that gun was just a child's game. The real struggle was facing losses, your mother, then your dreams, smothered by poverty. You start teaching yourself, borrowing books from neighbors, each page opening a new world. You wonder, how do the rich become successful? Historians still debate whether Hill's impoverished experiences were truly his main drive, or just a story embellished later to inspire others. Either way, you don't need answers now. You just know that each night, lying on that cold floor, you dream of stepping out of this darkness. You feel persistence growing inside you, like a small flame that refuses to die. One day, you decide to leave home, carrying a few belongings and a lot more ambition. You think, if I don't try, I'll always be that poor Virginia boy. You smile faintly, muttering, at least I can tell my friends I slept on the floor and didn't starve. But deep down, you know this journey is just beginning, and your childhood struggles will be the foundation for something greater. You've left that cold wooden floor behind, the memory of Wise County fading as you carry your worn-out bag down a dusty road, your boots crunching against the gravel. The air smells of pine and possibility, and your heart beats a little faster as you head toward a new chapter. You're no longer just the boy who dreamed by the fireplace. You're a young man with a hunger for something bigger, and today, that hunger leads you to a chance encounter that will change everything. You're about to meet Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate whose words will ignite a fire in you that no mountain poverty could extinguish. You arrive in Pittsburgh in 1908, the city buzzing with the clang of factories and the hum of progress. Your hands are still rough from chopping wood, but you've landed a job as a journalist, a step up from your rural life. You're scribbling notes for a story when you hear about Carnegie, a Scottish immigrant who turned steel into a fortune and now lives like a king. One day, you're sent to interview him, your notebook trembling slightly in your grip as you step into his grand office. The room smells of polished wood and cigar smoke, and Carnegie, short, stout, with a twinkle in his eye, greets you with a firm handshake. He's 73, a legend who built an empire, and you're just 25, a nobody from the hills. Carnegie leans back in his chair, the leather creaking, and starts talking about success. Not just money, but the mindset behind it. He tells you he's studied hundreds of achievers, from Rockefeller to Edison, and believes there's a formula anyone can follow. You listen, pen flying across the page, as he challenges you. Young man, why don't you spend your life figuring this out? Write a book about it. You're stunned, me, a book? But his confidence is contagious, and he promises to introduce you to his network. This isn't just a job offer, it's a mission. A historical truth. Carnegie donated nearly 90% of his wealth, over $350 million in 1919, to libraries and education, a move that shaped modern philanthropy, and now he's handing you a piece of that legacy. You leave the office, your mind spinning, the weight of his words sinking in. Carnegie's challenge isn't just talk. Later, you'll learn he gave you no financial support, just connections, testing your grit. A quirky detail. Some say Carnegie kept a lucky coin from his childhood, rubbing it before big decisions. Maybe he rubbed it that day, betting on you. You chuckle thinking, if that coin's magic, I need one too. But the real magic is the spark he lit. You start imagining a book, a guide to success, and feel a thrill run through you. Even as your stomach growls from skipping lunch. You begin reaching out, using Carnegie's introductions to meet industrialists and inventors. The work is grueling, long train rides, late-night scribbling notes, but you're driven by his belief in you. Historians still debate whether Carnegie genuinely saw potential in Hill, or was just indulging a young reporter for amusement. Did he mean to mentor, or was this a casual dare? You don't care, you're too busy soaking in the lessons. You feel the paper of your notebook crinkle as you write, the ink smudging from your sweaty palms, and you know this is your shot. Days turn into weeks, and you're no longer just a journalist, you're a student of success. You think, if Carnegie believes in me, maybe I'm not that poor kid anymore. You laugh softly, imagining him chuckling at your earnestness, saying, keep going, lad, or I'll haunt you with that coin. The encounter with Carnegie isn't just a meeting, it's the pivot point, the moment you start building the philosophy that will define your life. You're still buzzing from that meeting with Carnegie. The ink on your notebook smudged, but your resolve sharper than ever. The Pittsburgh air feels electric as you step onto a train, the chug of the engine matching the rhythm of your heartbeat. You're no longer just a reporter chasing a story. You're on a quest, armed with Carnegie's introductions, to uncover the secrets of success from the greatest minds of your time. You're about to embark on a journey of interviews, a grueling but thrilling odyssey that will shape the philosophy you'll one day share with the world. The train rattles along, the seat hard against your back, and you flip through your list, names like Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and Alexander Graham Bell. Your first stop is New Jersey, where Edison greets you in his cluttered workshop, the air thick with the scent of oil and metal. He's tinkering with a new invention, his hands steady despite his age, and he tells you about persistence, how he failed thousands of times before the light bulb worked. You scribble furiously, feeling the paper crinkle under your pen, as he says, I didn't fail, I found ways that don't work. You nod, the lesson sinking in, and your mind races with how this grit could lift others from poverty like yours. You move on, meeting Ford in Detroit, the hum of his assembly line in the background. He's a wiry man with a sharp gaze, and he talks about vision, how he saw cars for everyone, not just the rich. The factory floor vibrates under your feet, and you smell the tang of fresh paint as he explains his belief in imagination over circumstance. A historical truth. Ford's Model T, introduced in 1908, revolutionized transportation, making cars affordable and reshaping society. Proof that vision can change the world. You're inspired, your hand aching from writing, but you press on, meeting Bell, who shares how curiosity drove his telephone invention. The journey isn't easy. You travel by train and horse, sleeping in cheap inns where the mattresses sag, and the food is bland, stale bread and weak coffee. But each conversation fuels you. A quirky detail. Some say Edison kept a pet parrot that mimicked his experiments, squawking at odd hours. Imagine that bird chirping while you took notes. You laugh softly, thinking, if that parrot wrote a book, it'd be a bestseller too. The interviews span over 20 years, from 1908 to the late 1920s, as you compile insights from over 500 successful people, from tycoons to artists. You start seeing patterns: desire, faith, persistence, the power of the mind. Your notebook fills with ideas, the pages curling from constant use, and you feel a mix of exhaustion and excitement. Historians still debate whether Hill's interviews were as extensive as he claimed or if he embellished stories to build his legend. Did he really meet all those giants, or did he fill gaps with imagination? You don't dwell on it. You're too busy connecting the dots. You sit in a dimly lit train car, the whistle blowing in the distance, and think, this is it, the formula Carnegie wanted. Your body aches from the travel. Your eyes strain from late nights, but your spirit soars. You imagine a book taking shape, a guide for anyone to rise like you're trying to. You chuckle, muttering, if I can survive these train rides, I can survive anything. The lessons from these titans, Edison's grit, Ford's vision, Bell's curiosity, start weaving together, and you feel like you're onto something big, something that could lift you and others out of the shadows of struggle. You stepping off that rattling train, your notebook stuffed with lessons from the likes of Edison and Ford, but the weight of your journey is starting to press down on you. The excitement of chasing success is still there, flickering like a candle, but life has a way of throwing storms your way, and right now, you're caught in one. The 1920s are in full swing, but for you, the decade brings not just the roar of progress but the crash of personal failures. You're about to face debt, heartbreak, and a deep crisis of self-doubt that threatens to unravel everything you've worked for. You're back in Chicago now, renting a small apartment that smells of damp wood and old paint. The city's energy, jazz in the streets, cars honking, feels distant as you sit at a wobbly desk, staring at a pile of bills. You've poured years into researching success, but your bank account tells a different story. You're broke, borrowing money to keep going, and the irony isn't lost on you. Here you are, studying wealth while you can't afford a decent meal. You laugh bitterly, thinking, if Edison could see me now, he'd say I'm finding ways that don't work. But the humor fades fast as creditors knock on your door, their impatience as sharp as the winter wind outside. It's not just money troubles. Your marriage is crumbling. Your first wife, Florence, can't handle the stress of your obsession with this project. She leaves, taking your kids, and the silence in your apartment feels heavier than ever. You pace the creaky floor, your footsteps echoing, and wonder if Carnegie's challenge was a curse. A historical truth. The 1929 stock market crash, which hit just as you were struggling, wiped out millions, and though you weren't an investor, the ripple effects made your financial woes worse, as publishers hesitated to take risks on new authors. You feel the walls closing in, the dream of a book slipping through your fingers like sand. Here's an odd detail. During this low point, you briefly tried selling a success course by mail, promising quick riches. Some called it a scam, and you later admitted it was a desperate move. You wince at the memory, muttering, guess I was more con man than philosopher back then. The failure stings and doubt creeps in. You sit on the edge of your bed, the springs groaning, and ask yourself if you're a fraud. How can you teach success when you're drowning in failure? Your notebook, once a source of pride, now feels like a mocking reminder of promises you can't keep. The crisis isn't just external, it's eating at your core. You stare out the window, watching snow dust the streets, and feel a hollowness you haven't known since those hungry Virginia days. Historians still debate whether Hill's struggles in the 1920s were exaggerated in his later writings to make his comeback more dramatic, or if he truly hit rock bottom. Did he embellish the pain, or was it as raw as he claimed? You don't have time for debates. You're too busy fighting to keep your head above water. You clench your fists, the cold biting your knuckles, and whisper, I can't give up, not now. Somewhere deep down, those lessons from Carnegie's Titans start to echo. Persistence, faith, the power of belief. You pick up your pen, the nib scratched from overuse, and start writing again. Not for a book yet, but to remind yourself why you started. You think, if I can survive this, maybe I'm tougher than I look. A small smile tugs at your lips as you joke. At least I'm too broke to afford giving up. The failures hurt, but they're forging something in you. A resilience that will soon give birth to your greatest work. You still in that chilly Chicago apartment, the echoes of failure lingering like the damp smell in the air, but something inside you has shifted. The snow outside has stopped, and a faint ray of sunlight creeps through the window, as if signaling a new beginning. You're sitting at that wobbly desk again, your fingers gripping a pen, and this time, you're not just scribbling notes to survive. You're writing with purpose. The lessons from Carnegie, the wisdom of Edison and Ford, and the pain of your own struggles are all coming together. You're about to create Think and Grow Rich, a book that will cement your name in history and inspire millions. It's 1937 now, and you've clawed your way out of the worst of your financial hole. Thanks to odd jobs and a second marriage to Rosalie Beeland, who believes in your vision. You feel her encouragement like a warm hand on your shoulder as you write late into the night. The scratch of your pen against paper blending with the hum of a flickering lamp. You're pouring everything into this book. 20 years of interviews, countless failures, and a burning desire to prove that success isn't just for the elite. You write about desire, faith, and persistence, weaving in stories of the titans you met, but also your own journey, showing that even a poor boy from Virginia can rise. You feel the weight of every word, knowing this could be your shot at redemption. The book takes shape, each chapter a brick in the foundation of your philosophy. You're crafting a step-by-step guide, not just for wealth, but for achieving any goal through the power of the mind. A historical truth. When Think and Grow Rich was published in 1937, the Great Depression was still gripping the world. Unemployment hit 20% in the US, and your book offered hope to a desperate audience, selling out its first print run in weeks. You smile as you write, imagining readers finding solace in your words, just as you found strength in Carnegie's challenge all those years ago. Here's a peculiar detail. You originally wanted to title the book Use Your Noodle to Win More Boodle, a playful nod to the slang of the time. Noodle for brain, boodle for money. You laughed to yourself thinking, good thing Rosa talked me out of that one. I'd have sounded like a carnival barker. The title Think and Grow Rich feels weightier, more timeless, and you're glad you listened. You keep writing, your hand cramping, but you can't stop. The ideas flow like a river, and you're determined to finish what you started. You're not just writing a book, you're building a bridge between your past and future. Each page feels like a step away from that cold Virginia floor, a step toward the philosopher you're becoming. Historians still debate whether your book was truly a product of rigorous research or more of a motivational manifesto. Did you really distill a universal formula, or did you craft a compelling story to sell hope? You don't pause to argue. You're too focused on the manuscript in front of you, the ink smudging under your fingers as you write about the power of a burning desire. You finish a chapter, leaning back in your chair, the wood creaking under your weight. You feel a surge of pride, but also a quiet fear. Will anyone care? You whisper to yourself, if this flops, I might as well start selling that success course again. You chuckle, shaking off the doubt, and think, at least I'd have a story to tell. How I failed at success. But deep down, you know this book is different. It's your heart on the page, and as you watch the sunrise through your window, you feel ready to share it with the world. You've just sent the final manuscript of Think and Grow Rich to the publisher, the ink still fresh on your signature, and a quiet relief washes over you as you lean back in your chair. The Chicago apartment feels a little warmer now, the hum of the city outside blending with the soft creak of the floorboards under your feet. Your book is out there, and you're about to witness its impact ripple across the globe, though not without sparking some heated debates. You're stepping into the legacy of your work, where admiration meets controversy, shaping your name as both a beacon and a lightning rod. It's late 1937, and the first copies hit the shelves, their crisp pages smelling of new paper and possibility. You hear whispers from friends. People are reading it, talking about it, even forming study groups during the lingering shadow of the Depression. The book sells steadily, and by the 1940s it's a phenomenon, with millions of copies in print, translated into dozens of languages. You feel a thrill as you imagine readers in small towns and big cities, their fingers tracing your words, finding hope in your lessons on desire and persistence. The success lifts you, your bank account finally stabilizing, and you start lecturing, your voice carrying those ideas to packed halls, the air thick with anticipation. But not everyone loves it. Some critics call your philosophy shallow. accusing you of oversimplifying success into a feel-good formula that ignores systemic barriers like poverty or race. You sit in your study, the lamp casting shadows on the walls, and read a harsh review, the paper crinkling in your hands. They question if your book is more hype than substance. A historical truth. By 1940, Think and Grow Rich had influenced figures like W. Clement Stone, who built a fortune on its principles, proving its practical impact. Yet the debate persists. You shrug, thinking, if they'd met Carnegie, they'd understand. Here's a quirky detail. Some fans swear they've seen your book glow on their shelves, attributing it to its transformative power. Others joke it's just the cheap paper reflecting light. You chuckle, muttering, maybe I should have added a glow-in-the-dark cover. The controversy doesn't faze you much. It fuels your resolve. You keep writing, refining your ideas, and watch as your work inspires entrepreneurs, leaders, and dreamers, even as detractors argue it's a self-help fad. Historians still debate whether your book's success stemmed from its timeless wisdom or its clever marketing. Did it resonate because of genuine insight, or because you tapped into a desperate need for hope? You don't dwell on it. You're too busy responding to letters from readers, their gratitude warming you like a hearth. You sit by the window, the city lights twinkling below, and think, if this is controversy, I'll take it. You laugh softly, imagining critics rolling their eyes as you quip, at least my book's selling better than their lectures. The influence grows, and you feel a mix of pride and pressure. Your ideas about the subconscious mind and positive thinking shape modern self-help, but the arguments keep coming. You lean back, the chair groaning, and whisper, let them talk. I've given them something to think about. The book's legacy is taking root, and you know it's bigger than the naysayers, a testament to your journey from those Virginia hills. You're standing on a stage now, the spotlight warm on your face, the murmur of the crowd fading as you adjust your notes. It's the 1950s, and you're a far cry from that boy in Virginia, though the memory of those cold floors still lingers in your bones. Think and Grow Rich has made you a household name, and you're traveling the country, speaking to packed rooms, your voice steady as you share the principles that lifted you from poverty. You're reflecting on your legacy, the impact you've had on millions, and the final lessons your life offers to those who dream big. You look out at the audience, their eyes bright with hope, and you feel a quiet pride. Your book has sold over 15 million copies by now, a number that staggers you, and it's inspired people from all walks of life, factory workers, entrepreneurs, even future leaders. You think of the letters you've received, like the one from a young man who started a business after reading your book, or the woman who found courage to chase her dreams. A historical truth. Your work influenced the modern self-help movement, with authors like Norman Vincent Peale citing your ideas as a foundation for their own in the mid-20th century. You smile, feeling the weight of that impact, knowing you've given people a blueprint to rise. But your legacy isn't without quirks. Some say you were obsessed with the number 13, always scheduling speeches or writing sessions on the 13th, believing it brought luck, a habit that amused your friends. You chuckle, thinking, if 13 got me here, I'm not complaining. The crowd laughs at your quip, and you continue, sharing how desire and persistence, those lessons from Carnegie, can overcome any obstacle. You feel the stage creak under your steps, the air thick with the scent of old wood and anticipation. And you know this is your calling. There's debate, though. Historians still argue over whether your philosophy truly empowers everyone, or just those already positioned to succeed. Does it work for all, or only the lucky? You don't linger on the question. You focus on the faces in front of you, the ones who found strength in your words. You wrap up your speech, the applause washing over you like a wave, and you step off the stage, your heart full. You think, if I've helped even one person, that's enough. You laugh softly, joking to yourself, maybe I'll write a sequel, Think and Grow Old. As the years pass, you keep writing and speaking until your final days in 1970, leaving behind a legacy that endures. Your life, from poverty to philosopher, shows that the mind's power can reshape destiny, a lesson that echoes through time. And now, as the evening light dims, let your thoughts drift like a gentle stream, carrying you back through Napoleon's journey, from those Virginia hills to stages bathed in light. You've walked with him, felt his struggles, and shared his triumphs, each lesson a whisper of hope for your own dreams. Picture the world fading softly, the hum of the crowd becoming a distant lullaby, wrapping you in peace. Your heart feels full, your mind at ease, and as you sink into the quiet, let his story remind you to dream big, to persist, to believe. Sleep now, dear friend, with the glow of his legacy in your heart. Good night.